Welcome to HeavieTalk. I'm your girl Heavie. I am back with another episode of HeavieTalk, here to serve you up some more straight talk with no chaser. Welcome to another HeavieTalk Friday episode. As always, we have quite a bit to get into. We're going to be doing a countdown into the 2023 Juneteenth Business Expo, where you can shop exclusively virtually for $18.65. We're also going to be talking about the environment, global warming, possibly. We got an orange haze that's over the New York DMV area. There is a beach in the US that's at risk for E. coli. There's a volcano that's erupting in Hawaii. So we're going to get into the environment. We're also going to be talking about Chris Paul, my boy that got waived. Why are the legends, Chris Paul, Melo, getting disrespected like this? And I was trying to avoid this. I really was. I don't want to talk about the young man because everybody been talking about him, and I actually do like him. But we're gonna have to talk about Ja Morant because I believe, in my humble opinion, the whole ordeal has gotten a bit outrageous. And we're going to be getting into all things that are Black. I'm going to tell you the first 10 words that have been released for the coming soon Oxford African American Dictionary. And we're going to be getting into what's going on at these HBCUs with the presidents that are suddenly resigning. To end the episode, we will get into my favorite segment, things that had me like WTF. All of that and more on this episode of HeavieTalk, Straight Talk with No Chaser. But first, let me give you your inspiration, your word for today. Your word of the day is purpose. What are you called to do? One of the greatest feelings is discovering your purpose. Find your purpose. Once you do, start moving and planning according to your purpose. Now, this word was so meaningful and impactful for me. I had to choose this word for this episode because I truly feel like my podcast, my expo, are living proof that I'm moving in my purpose. These are things that I feel like I was called to do. I feel like I was called to share and highlight Black history. I feel like I was called to uplift and promote and just be like a resource for Black businesses. So I feel like through my platforms, HeavieTalk Media and the Black Blog and Heavie Reads and HeavieTalk radio show and HeavieTalk, I feel like all of that is me moving in my purpose. And I credit all of that to my faith, to being a Christian, just through my devotion and watching my sermons and just taking time to just let God talk to me and just being able to listen. I was really able to discover what my purpose was. So God, in addition to just testing stuff out, I have a lot of my friends and people that ask me, how did you know that this is something that you wanted to do? How did you find my purpose? And I just recommend them to do what I did now. Everything doesn't work for everybody, but I can at least give them what I did. And honestly, what I did, I knew that there were certain stuff that I was passionate about, where I felt like I was called to do. So I just started trying it out, whether that was through volunteering, whether that was through an internship, whether that was just through learning more about the actual role or the skill or the occupation. I just tested it out, and just from testing it out, it's kind of like trial and error. That's how I was able to determine, like, okay, this is what I feel like my purpose is. This may be a hobby, and maybe I shouldn't do this at all. So I strongly urge all of us, all of you, to find your purpose. As a person of faith, I do believe that we were all placed on this earth for a reason, for a purpose. So find your purpose. And once you do, start moving and planning according to your purpose. Now let's get into our episode. I want to start by giving you a countdown into the 2023 Juneteenth Business Expo. We are 7 days away into the expo opens. If you're not familiar, I'll give you a quick recap. So my brands, The Black Blog and HeavieTalk Media hosts an annual virtual expo. The whole point is to highlight Black business owners. So all of our vendors, which are Black business owners, offer products for 1865 in honor of Juneteenth. So from June 17th to June 19th, customers are able to just browse and check out all of the products that are offered exclusively for 1865, and are able to shop them. So go support our vendors, go check out who's currently vending, go check out the products that they are offering. And even if you hear this after the expo has opened. Even if you can't get the product for $18.65, you can still support and go check out what product service that they're offering. So to learn more, visit JuneteenthBusinessExpo.site. Again, JuneteenthBusinessExpo.site. Go check out the vendors and go shop for $18.65. Last but not least, in talking about the expo, I don't know how I forgot this part. I want to talk about men. Out of all of my vendor inquiry responses, only 2 of them were from men. Now, this is the pattern I started to notice from doing events curated by the Black Dot blog. Anytime in our whole tenure, anytime we've hosted an event, there's always been a lack of participation from men. My ladies will always sign up, show out, follow through. My men, even if they may sign up, which they really don't, they don't follow through. So this is something that I've noticed, and this is going to be my open call to all Black male entrepreneurs. Get in tune with the Black Dot blog. We want to work. We want to collab with you. We want to highlight your business and your journey and help you get to the bag. For anybody that knows a Black male entrepreneur, tell them the Black Dot blog wants to help them get the bag. Okay. Now that I said that, let's move on from the expo now officially. Let's keep talking about all things that are Black. Did you know that Oxford is coming out with an African American English dictionary? Now, this is something that I discuss on HeavieTalk's radio show. You can listen to past live HeavieTalk radio shows exclusively on Patreon. So join us on Patreon and go catch up on past radio shows. And you can hear me when I first talked about this dictionary and who created it and what the whole goal is. So 10 words have been put out, have recently been released for the dictionary. And I want to tell you what the words are and give you a couple of the definitions because I found it to be interesting. First one, bussin'. They say bussin', B-U-S-S-I-N. They said it's an adjective. Now, there's 2 definitions. The one that I found to be especially interesting is the one definition, especially describing food, tasty and delicious. The forms of the word are bussin, B-U-S-S-I-N-G, and bussin, B-U-S-S-I-N. I think that's an asterisk. Second one, grill. They say grill is a noun, a removable or permanent dental overlay, typically made of silver, gold, or another metal, and often inset with gemstones, which is worn as jewelry. Oh, that must be interesting. Third one, chitterlings. No offense to nobody, I think chitterlings are gross. Chitterlings, they say chitterlings is plural. Definition: a dish made from pig intestines that are typically boiled, fried, or stuffed with other ingredients. Occasionally also pig intestines as an ingredient. The different forms are chitlins, chitterlings, and chitlins. 2 more, and then I'll urge you to go research yourself. Next one, kitchen. Talking about this kitchen, not the food kitchen. Noun, it's a noun, they say. The hair at the nape of your neck, which is typically shorter, kinkier, and considered more difficult to style. And last but not least, cakewalk. Noun. It's 2 definitions, but this one I found to be interesting. Something that is considered easily done, as in this job is a cakewalk. Now, I was reading straight from Black Enterprise. Black Enterprise has an article that lists all 10 of the words with the definitions and the different forms in the believe part of speech. The thing that really came to mind when I was going through and reading these different words, I was like, how did they come up, 1, to determine which words would actually be put in the dictionary, and 2, how did they decide what the actual what the definitions were going to be. Then I thought, did they do it? I believe it's called like a focus room, where maybe you have a product and then you have like a random group of people watch it or test it out, and then they give their input. So then I was thinking, did they do like a Black focus room and then just have Black people throw out words and then they did it like that? Or did they do something where like the actual team that's making the dictionary came up with the words, and then they did like a survey and had Black people generally say what they thought the word was, and then they took like the general answer and made that the definition? From reading this, I had so many questions, but I urge you to go check it out. The dictionary will be coming out in 2025. I will be definitely copying me a copy, and I urge you to as well. Next, let's talk about education. Now, this stood out to me because I've been sharing Black history facts, and a lot of them have been centered around the Brown versus Board ruling when that came out, and they affected a lot of different things. So a lot of my Black history facts for the end of last month and this month have been related to that. So when I saw something that said, the top Manhattan specialized school only admitted, out of 762 students, 7 Black students. I'm gonna say it again, maybe you missed it. The top Manhattan specialized school, out of 762 students, only admitted 7 Black students. Now, the article that I read said, now this is extremely interesting. They didn't say interesting, I said interesting. The article said that, this is something because in this school system, 2/3 of the student population is Black and Latino. So you telling me 2/3 of the student population is Black and Latino in that school system, but that same school system at this particular school, they still only admitted 7 Black students out of 762? The math, it's not really adding up to me. And this is where I feel like we get into this, what I feel like is another form of racism. Then the white people or the school system could say, well, these students weren't Black, not enough Black students were qualified, they didn't meet our criteria, it's not a race thing, blah, blah. I'm not really buying that. As soon as I read this article, I immediately thought about the Black history fact that I've been sharing. And I said, I feel like that what I just told you is maybe a passive form of racism, because they're just not even going to let us in the school. They're going to deny us admission. You're not going to be able to get in here, period. Versus what I'm going to tell you about back in the day, when the Black people was trying to go up in these schools that the white people didn't feel like we were supposed to be in, the governor of the state would like block the door, try to send in federal troops, like all types of stuff. So let's get into it. The first history fact that I want to bring you up to date on is Ernest Green, the first Black student to graduate from Little Rock Central High School. So Ernest Green was a part of the Little Rock Nine. If you're not familiar with the Little Rock Nine, the Little Rock Nine were a group of 9 Black students that tried to integrate a high school in Arkansas. So after Brown versus Board, after that ruling, all schools were ordered to desegregate. So how the process seemed to go is that each school or schools would choose there was a process in choosing what Black students were going to be the actual students that were going to integrate a particular school. So at Little Rock Central High School, 9 students were chosen to integrate this school. They became known as the Little Rock Nine. When these students went to try to register or enroll or attend this school, there was a big hoopla about it. The Arkansas governor tried to block the students from attending. So this led into the National Guard having to be called. It was honestly a big ordeal. So it's not nothing slight. It's a huge accomplishment that Ernest Green became the first Black student to graduate from Little Rock Central High School in 1958. Let's also talk about James Meredith. James Meredith, he attempted to roll at Still same time period, right after Brown versus Board, the ruling, schools were ordered to desegregate and they were attempting to integrate and allow in Black students. James Meredith, an African-American man, tried to enroll at the University of Mississippi in 1962. When he tried to enroll the first time, he was denied. We can all guess why, because he was Black. With that being said, with the help of the NAACP, he filed a lawsuit, he won, and he once again attempted to enroll at the school. The day that he went to enroll, a protest broke out, a white mob ensued, people were trying to stop him from being able to enter the actual building. So 2 people ended up dead, and President Kennedy had to send in more than 31,000 troops. Story doesn't end there. James Meredith said, I don't care what y'all say, I'm still enrolling here. The man still persisted. He still went to the registration office with the whole mob and 31,000 troops escorting him there. He still went and he still enrolled. And shortly after, 1 year later, he became the first African-American student at the University of Mississippi. It's not the only thing that James Meredith did. The man went through a lot during his life. Nearly 4 years later, because you can assume that after all he went through just trying to get an education, the man got into activism. He started becoming an activist, and he organized a solo march. So his march, it was called the March Against Fear, and he was going to travel from Memphis, Tennessee to Jackson, Mississippi. When he was just starting his solo march, the man was shot by a sniper. WT in the F. If the man didn't already go through a lot 4 years prior, just trying to get his education, during that whole ordeal, 2 people were shot. I'm sure that was traumatizing for him. Then 4 years later, after he decided, I need to get into activism, clearly there's a problem going on. Clearly, Black people, we still need to be fighting for our civil rights. He decided that he wanted to step in and actually start being an activist. He organized his solo march, and he got shot by a sniper. You're kidding. There's actual photos on Getty Images of him laying on the ground after being shot by a sniper. So after all of that happened with James Meredith, shortly after, in the state of Alabama, Vivian Jones tried to enroll at the University of Alabama, because the people at the University of Alabama had already saw what happened with James Meredith at Mississippi when 2 people were shot during that whole ordeal of them trying to stop him from registering. That school in Mississippi tried to set up precautions in place so that, the school in Alabama tried to set up precautions in place so that something like that wouldn't happen at their school. So they already had stuff ready in the event that Vivian Jones was becoming the first Black student at the University of Alabama. Even still, with all of these precautions in place, when Vivian showed up to try to enroll at the University of Alabama, once again, just like at Mississippi, a whole ordeal broke out. Can you believe that the actual governor of Alabama, not figuratively, the man literally stood in the doorway trying to block Vivian from entering the school? He was trying to block the door, so much so that President Kennedy, just like with James Meredith, had to be called, and President Kennedy had to ask the governor of Alabama to stand down and let the students in. That wasn't enough. He had to then send in more federal troops and mobilize the National Guard, not to be under the governor's control, but to be under the president's control. This is what we had to go through in the 1960s just to attend a quote-unquote white school, just to get an education. So when I saw the story about what happened with the Manhattan schools and how out of 762 students in a school system where 2/3 of the student population is Black and Latinos, only seven of those students were Black out of 762, I immediately thought about these Black history facts that I just shared. Back in the day, they were able to be more active about how they were trying to stop Black people from being at school and stop Black people from getting a higher education or a good education. They were able to literally, like I said, the Alabama governor literally stood in the doorway of the school trying to block the students from entering. At the University of Mississippi, 2 people were shot when a mob broke out because they were trying to stop James Meredith from getting his education. Same thing with the Little Rock Nine. The whole reason why they became the Little Rock Nine is because there were protests and everything that ensued just for these 9 Black students trying to get an education. So back then, they were able to be active about it. Now, they can just say, we're only going to admit 7 Black students out of 762, and they could make it fall under any terms. It wasn't done. Then we started hearing stuff because Black people weren't qualified, and not enough people were qualified. They didn't meet the criteria. They can say why everything's not about race. It's not a race issue. Then you start to hear stuff like that, when to me, smoke and mirrors, to me, it's the same overall concept. It's just Black people being prohibited, whether passively or actively, from being able to get a good quality education at either a college level, a high school level, or elementary school level. They're doing it at all levels, all forms. That's what I thought about. So just wanted to share that because it had me like WTF, like the numbers were not adding up. And if you would like to learn more about those Black history facts that I share, you can check them out on the Black Dot blog, because we've shared them last month and this month. Those have been Black history facts that we've shared. So let's moving on. Keeping with all things that are Black and keeping with education, let's talk about HBCUs, and let's talk about these HBCU presidents. So something has been going on at HBCUs with the administration and with them not being able to keep presidents. This really became social media story because I follow quite a bit of HBCU alums and students and faculty. I don't know why I can get my words together, and actual HBCU faculty. So this is when I learned about just how many HBCU presidents have been resigning, and if they're not have been resigning, just how quickly they leave once they do become president. Like HBCU presidents don't really stay around maybe for more than 5 years. They usually seem to leave during that 5-year span, and I didn't know that. So this really came to a head when Texas Southern's president resigned. So the Texas Southern University president abruptly resigned less than 2 years after she took the position. So once she resigned, a lot of people were like, wait, didn't another HBCU president just resign? And yes, in fact, Ruth Simmons at Prairie View A&M resigned too earlier this year. Now, if you don't know who Ruth Simmons is, don't feel that bad, because I honestly didn't know who she was either until I did my research. So Ruth Simmons actually came out of retirement to become a president at Prairie View A&M. Previous to her coming out of retirement, she worked at Smith College in Massachusetts, where she served as a president. So this wasn't her first time being a president at Prairie View. She'd been one before, and she also was a president at Brown University. So Brown University is an Ivy League school. She was the president there, and she was the first Black woman to lead an Ivy League school. So that's who Ruth Simmons is. She is that one. She's not one to play with, okay? While she was president of Prairie View A&M, she grew its endowment by more than 40%. While she was president, the school also received a $50 million donation from Mackenzie Scott, the former wife of Jeff Bezos. So Ruth had said earlier in 2023 that she was going to be resigning at the end of the year. Abruptly, I would say maybe around February, she decided to resign effective immediately. When she first put out that she was going to resign, people had questions because it just sounded a little bit funny, because first she said you was going to be resigning at the end of the year. Now you're resigning super early, effective immediately. So what's going on? Not too soon after, the tea came out and she talked about why, in fact, she was going to be resigning. And it seems like there was a bit of smoke between her and the Texas A&M University System Chancellor, John Sharp. So in her resignation letter, she said that they only wanted her to continue as president with limited presidential authority. So in jest, they just wanted her to have the title. They didn't want her to be actually doing presidential duties. Now, in me telling you all about who Ruth Simmons is, she came out of retirement to be a president there. That says a lot. She was in retirement. She said, let me come help this HBCU after she'd already worked at Smith College as a president, after she was already at Brown University, the first Black woman to lead an Ivy League school. She came out of retirement. So she said, I know who I am. Y'all not finna have me be president, and I'm only gonna be president just for the title's sake. If I'm gonna be president, I'm actually gonna be doing stuff to actually help the students, not just having a name. So apparently that's what the Texas A&M University System Chancellor wanted her to just have the title, not actually do the role. So that's why she retired. So something is going on with these HBCUs and their presidents. I don't know exactly what it is. I don't know. In doing my research, I've heard that the different boards at these HBCUs, generally speaking, they aren't really advocating for the students. That's what I've heard, or that's what I've read rather, that like a lot of these HBCU, I've called it's the board, that they maybe are acting for themselves and they're not acting in the best interest of the students. And with that being said, that's why we see a lot of these presidents that are going in and out, because they just don't want to be a part of that, or the board is making them do stuff that they feel like is not true to them and it's not true to how they feel like this HBCU should be served. In a lot of their resignation letters from these presidents, they say, we're not going to stop helping HBCUs. We do care about HBCUs and the students and the vibe and the meaning of it. We are just no longer going to be working at this HBCU in this capacity. I don't know why we're stumbling with our words today, but we will persist. So that's all I have in regards to HBCUs. I do urge you to do your own research. And I want to say, in closing, with these HBCUs, heavy on the Aggie pride every day, all day. Now let's get into basketball. Chris Paul. It is being reported that Chris Paul has been waived by the Phoenix Suns. Unfortunately, I now feel comfortable saying I don't think Chris Paul is ever going to get a ring. I think that if it was going to happen, it would have happened already. I think that Chris Paul's time has passed, unfortunately, not just on the Suns. I think Chris Paul has had space and opportunity several times to get a ring, and it seems like every single time it was like prime for him. It just always seems to flop and it didn't go through. So I'm really sad to say it, but I feel like Chris Paul is going to be a Melo. Melo, first he was in the NBA. He was going to different teams. He was a star player. He was a franchise player. Then he was a free agent for a season. Then he was free agent for multiple seasons. Then he just retired because he like nobody else is finna sign me. So he just said, okay, I'm finna retire. I think that's what it's gonna be like for Chris Paul. I don't think that he's gonna retire now, maybe in the next couple of years, but I feel like his chances of getting a ring have passed. Unfortunately, I think it's a done dealio. Now let's talk about Ja Morant. Ja Morant. Now, I intentionally tried to skip this topic because I felt like everybody was talking about the young man. It seems like he was going through maybe like a mental health moment. So I want to just leave the man alone and just give him time to just heal, be with his thoughts, and just do his own thing. But then I seen let me go back. Because maybe some of y'all don't know who Ja Morant is. That's my bad. My apologies. So Ja Morant, he's a player for the NBA Memphis Grizzlies. So maybe about 2 times Ja Morant has been seen in public on social media platforms with a handgun. So immediately when he was seen the first time, it was like, really? Is he really serious right now? But he put out a statement. He said he was sorry. I think that he couldn't play for maybe a couple of games. He had to go fly somewhere and go talk to the NBA. NBA, what's his name? Adam Silver. He had to talk to him. It was this whole thing. So people said, okay, he learned his lesson. We think Ja gonna chill out. He said that he's gonna go get counseling and figure out what it is that's causing him to do stuff like flash a gun while being on Instagram Live. That's what he said. Not too long after the first incident, Ja Morant was seen. The first time he was seen on his own Instagram Live. This time, Ja Morant was seen allegedly again brandishing a gun on live on a worldwide social media platform. He was immediately trending. People was like, Ja, did you not learn your lesson the first time? Did you not get the point the first time? Now, Adam Silver has said that he's not gonna say what the punishment or the consequences are right now because he does not want to distract from the NBA finals. That wouldn't be cool, to the teams because all the good work that they're doing. He's gonna wait until the finals are over and then tell us what the punishment is. A lot of us who heard that said, yeah, that means Ja might be out for the whole season. He might be banned. What's coming down must be pretty hefty if Adam wants to wait until the whole season is over because he don't want to take away from what's going on currently. The part where I said I gotta talk about this on the pod, I hope that this is fake news. I pray that I am misunderstanding. I pray. I pray. Ja and his peoples allegedly said that it was a toy gun. Are you kidding me right now? This the best that they come up with? Y'all, $1 million man, $1 million team, $1 million PR, $1 million agent, and the best y'all come up with it was a toy gun. Are you kidding me right now? Now, off the strength of that, he need the whole book thrown at him because now you playing in our good faces, acting like we is slow or we is dumb. You better off just not saying anything. You better off saying it's not mine. But what you said was it was a toy gun. Really, Ja? Really, Ja Morant? Now, the whole part about this that I just found to be interesting, which is why I didn't want to talk about it at first, is just what was going on with the Grizzlies the past couple of seasons. Just the different vibe or the culture that they have created in the last couple of years. So I just want to bring y'all up to date on a couple things that have happened at the Grizzlies arena during Grizzlies games, if y'all didn't already know. So at Grizzlies games, they've had quite a bit of rappers that have been at game. In fact, you look at a Grizzlies game, you could see like all the rappers like sitting courtside. And one video I seen is doing my research trying to find more information about the Grizzlies culture and what's been going on. I seen something that was like at one game, it was like ops that was both sitting at the front row at the game. That was interesting. We had the rappers at halftime. Really got me on some occasions. People, rappers, fans, they had money all on the court. Like it's money all on the court. Last but not least, at one of the games, people were shooting dice. I believe there were rappers that were shooting dice on the court, like on the little sidelines at the game. So this is what the culture has been with the Grizzlies for the past couple of years, in my opinion. So the problem that I have seems like the Grizzlies, lean into that culture. But then when something that's maybe of that culture happens, like Ja Morant pull out a gun, or Ja Morant is seen with a gun, I'm not speaking about if it's right or wrong. I'm not talking about in the eyes of the law. I'm not talking about in terms of PR, trying to keep the, NBA name. I'm talking about the culture that they've leaned, seems like that they have leaned into this culture because they had the rappers come sit courtside at the games. They allowed the rappers to be shooting dice on the sideline. They allowed the rappers to have, literally I saw a video, there was money all on the court. We allowed it. Like, we lean into that culture. Then when something like that happens, then when a Ja Morant, something like that happens, this is what we doing. This is what we doing. Now, do I think that it was a dumb choice? Absolutely. Would I be seen on Instagram live with a gun? Absolutely not. Do I think that Ja Morant should face some type of punishment? Absolutely. Do I still feel like this is a little bit interesting, seeing as all that Memphis and the Grizzlies have been leaning to? Absolutely. I just find it to be just like, but y'all had rappers shooting dice on the court, but y'all had rappers having money all on the court. Y'all had the rappers that are beefing, that are ops, all at the game court side. Like, what are we really doing here? What are we really saying here? Are we not with that, or are we with that? Because it's a bit confusing. That's all I have in sports. Now let's get into the environment, which has me like, WTF. There's an orange haze that's been over the New York DMV area. It's because of Canada wildfires. First of all, I'm ignorant, because never in my days did I know that Canada had wildfires, for one. For two, never did I know that just the power of wildfires could be so much that you could like see the effects like states away, or like in a whole different geographical location. Like, geographical location. Like, I never knew that. I never knew that. So that's had me just stunned. Like, I think something is going on with our planet here recently, because if these things were been happening, they weren't happening before to such an extent. Now it seems like everything that's going on with the environment is getting so much worse than it was before. That's also leaning into, there's a beach in the United States, in Detroit, in fact, that's at risk for E. coli. W in the TF, E. coli. The part of the story that got me is that residents didn't even know that the beach was at risk for E. coli. They were in the water. They found out after the fact that that the beach was at risk. Now, they could have already got it. What's going on? What is going on? Now, that is with the water. Let's go back to the last episode that I told y'all, things that had me like, what moment that in one country that the orcas are sinking the boats. They are sinking the boats. Something is happening. Let's go back a couple more episodes. I talked about these stuff that's in the sky, and the government, like, shooting it down. What was up with this stuff in the sky? We got stuff in the sky. We got orange haze because of wildfires. We got orcas that are sinking boats. We got beaches that got, E. coli in the water. Then we have a volcano that's erupting in Hawaii. On the big island of Hawaii, there's a volcano that started erupting last week. It is spewing out lava probably as we speak. Now, in doing my research for the volcano, I realized that sulfur dioxide and water vapor are fuming into the atmosphere. It is producing volcanic smog and could have adverse health effects. Then let's go back one more time to the Palestine, Ohio train derailment. The earth is falling apart by train, but on a land, we got something going on with the environment with the train. They said in Palestine that then people should be going to the doctor. And you got in Detroit, something going on with the beaches and the water. People wasn't told. Then if you in Hawaii, You just got to be careful of the whole atmosphere because volcano was just erupted. If you in New York, that they said that with that haze, it was not good for people because of the air quality. That affected a lot of the sports events in New York. We had the White Sox and Yankees game that was rescheduled. We had the Tigers and Phillies game that was rescheduled, and we had the Lynx, and I believe that's how you say it, in the Liberty game that was rescheduled, all because of stuff that's going on with the environment. So I don't know what's going on. I will say though, if you are a believer, stay prayed up because I don't know, something is going on, and I urge you to get right with your creator or whoever you believe in. And if you don't believe in nothing, just start meditating because it could possibly finna start to get real. Let's get into all the things that had me like W, T, and F. And keeping with the environment, this is an update from a previous WTF moment from last episode. Allstate is pulling a State Farm. Now, I told y'all in the last episode that Allstate said that they will no longer be giving out insurance applications because of the risk of wildfires. Now, I was like, ain't that the whole point of insurance, to cover people? So what are people supposed to do in California if State Farm won't even hand out or won't even insure them? That's just, I don't think that was cool. Now, Allstate is doing the same thing. Allstate said they're doing what State Farm is doing. They will no longer be accepting insurance applications because of the risk of wildfires. I think that that's honestly sad. What are people supposed to do? If their house get burned down, they can't get insured by State Farm, they can't get insured by Allstate. What are you to do? The other insurance companies cannot accept everybody. Somebody's going to be without insurance. That's just not right. Something else that had me like WTF. Honestly, I found this to be a little bit funny, and I might need this. A new rideshare company in Georgia will allow you to have an armed driver with you. Now, with all that's going on in the world, I wouldn't mind if I hop in a ride, hop in a little Uber or Lyft, and my driver with straps. Uber, Lyft needs to go ahead and do what this rideshare company is doing because I think that this is an amazing idea. It says that the drivers are military or law enforcement or people that have experience in private security world. So these are people that have experience with, you would think, have experience with the handgun, and they probably could keep you safe. Whoever came up with this, you're a genius, and I don't know why it took so long for somebody to come up with this idea. Something else that had me like WTF, New York, New York, New York. New York City police stepped aside for 5 days and let residents respond to 911 calls. I honestly feel like this is a good idea too because it can go both ways. Residents may have more respect for the police, or they just may have more empathy for them if they see what they actually have to go through on a day-to-day basis. And maybe it can go same thing with the officers. They might see something different or just get a different system or outlook if they see actual residents doing their job. They might see a different method or a different way to do this. So I actually found this to be interesting, and it definitely had me like WTF. Pete Davidson went off on PETA. They criticized him, said that he shouldn't have got his dog from where he got it from. And you know what Pete said? Pete said, suck my DICK. Whoa, Pete, this is what we doing? Really? Really, Pete? What? Seriously? Now, granted, it seems like PETA being everybody's business, so I kind of understand, but he didn't have to be so vulgar. Something else that had me like WTF, and just the lengths people will go through to try to discriminate and just be ugly and just ignorant. The British Library deleted a thread about a species of fish that can change its sex after hundreds of transphobic responses. Y'all won't let people be who they are. Y'all won't let fish be who they are. Y'all are saying transphobic things about fish. about fish. Are you kidding me? About fish? This is what we coming to. Somebody being and living in their true self doesn't impact you or affect you at all. Like that ain't none of your business. Let people be who they are. Happy Pride Month. Last but not least, and the things that had me like WTF. If you flying in New Zealand, they may be asking for your weight. They're gonna ask you to weigh yourself. In New Zealand, they are now asking passengers to weigh themselves because they said it will have an effect on the fuel cost. And I read the comment, and a lot of people that work in the airline industry said that the weight of the plane does affect the whole scale of things. So this is very important, and it makes sense that the Air New Zealand system would start weighing their passengers. So if you're flying in New Zealand, you will be weighed. That wraps up all the things that had me like WTF. Unfortunately, we came to the end of this episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. You listened through it throughout the trip ups of the words. I don't know why we struggled today, but we persisted through. We are 7 days away from the 2023 Juneteenth Business Expo. Go check it out. Check out our vendor, shop for 1865 when the expo opens. Learn more at juneteenthbusinessexpo.site. I will catch you here next week, same place, same time for more straight talk on No Chaser, the HeavieTalk way.